So, quote, the most effective way to prevent the spread of measles is the MMR vaccine. On to the text message that I got yesterday. They're perplexed because what RFK said in person is the opposite of what he said in this post. This book was published by Children's Health Defense, and it's called The Measles Book. And then a foreword by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Why have the benefits of the measles vaccine been exaggerated and the risks understated? Because these vaccines are a cash cow. Quote, measles outbreaks have been fabricated to create fear that in turn forces government officials to do something. Obviously, that is misinformation and, bad science. And anyone that would question the efficacy and the safe and effectiveness of the V things clearly is a misinformation spreader. So just to clarify, our stance on this show is that those V things are extremely safe and effective, and you should listen to everything that the big pharma media tells you about them, which I'm sure there was no crimes because these guys are all above board, and big pharma would never, ever commit a crime for profit. That's why they voted for Bobby. And so now that Bobby is changing his tune, it's looking pretty fishy. And so we naturally have some questions for you, Bobby Kennedy, because we are here to Maha, and we're gonna Maha. And we are under the impression that you're here to Maha too. And this is your legacy. And you wrote the goddamn book on it. The Real Anthony Fauci. And right now, Bobby, you are writing the book, The Real Bobby Kennedy.
Conspiracy theories are dangerous.
Information is the oxygen of a democracy.
With Republicans, with progressives, with libertarians, because this is not about right and left, this is about right and wrong.
It's so sick that we can't talk about it.
Our security is at stake.
There's a whole bunch of new developments in the Bobby Kennedy blackmail story, and it directly relates to Big Pharma, the measles outbreak in Texas, Bobby's public statements today on his HHS Twitter feed, and the books that he's written in the past about this exact topic. We are going to be on YouTube with this episode, and this episode is about the things that you inject into your body and into your babies that YouTube is still a little touchy about. So we're going to have to read between the lines a little bit and just be aware that I'm going to be choosing my language very carefully. But I'm sure you'll pick up what we're putting down here. But just to bring us all back into the story here and to remind anyone who's brand new to my channel or who hasn't followed this story at all with what's going on in rapid fire. Back on March 28th, I broke a story that was not exclusive and not brand new. It's things that have been alleged for a long time, but new data started to come out, and Candace Owens made a big video about it that kind of blew the world up, and then I got more information, and I put out this story on X and Instagram last week about the potential that maybe RFK Jr. is being blackmailed, and the fact that there are text message evidences that seem to suggest some form of sexual blackmail that is floating around in the background and being shopped to various media agencies, and many people claim to know about. And different people allege different things are involved in that blackmail. And we went through some of the speculation and some of the implications. And then, understandably, the world got really angry and blew up, and it was very controversial. And that video got like 11 million views just on X. And so I put out a second video last week that's titled, Let's Clear Up the RFK Jr. Blackmail Story Misconceptions. And I gave it the nice clickbait title, Who's Really Behind the RFK Jr. Blackmail? And in short, you should watch that second video because it's far more informative than the first. But the second video is essentially about the disparity between Bobby Kennedy's previous public stance on Big Pharma and on the V things that you inject into your babies to keep them safe. Very safe and effective, versus what he's saying now that he is actually HHS secretary through his public persona, through his Twitter page, through his articles he's writing, etc. And the two are not lining up. And we examined how it seems like a lot of people behind the scenes in Kennedy's campaign, in the Maha Moms, that have been around Bobby for years, even a decade and more, were privately sharing with me these same concerns that Bobby seems to be reversing his stance on the V things that you inject into your babies to keep them safe and totally effective. And the concern is starting to appear that in the health freedom movement, there is concerns that Bobby is being redirected towards food and away from the big pharma campaigns that actually make the most money and make the biggest differences in this bigger kind of intelligent state, deep state kind of way. And it does not feel organic. It feels very concerning. Since then, Anna Matson, who volunteered inside the campaign, has a lot of contacts inside the campaign, came out and posted a video sharing that she was concerned about Stephanie Speer, Bobby Kennedy's deputy chief of staff. Axios published one of the articles that I had been referencing earlier on, where I had said that the mainstream media is circling this carcass and trying to dig up dirt and write hit pieces on people inside of this. This is a pretty relatively dialed in article as far as I can tell. They do throw some mud on Bobby, but they do redirect all of that mud pretty largely to Stephanie Speer once they get into it. And a lot of people are looking at Stephanie Speer. I personally have bigger suspicions than that, but that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is Bobby Kennedy's stance on the MMR and on the measles outbreak in Texas and what is going on behind the scenes with this measles outbreak that is a little weird. You know, I'm not actually clear on when this recording was done on Fox News. This was posted on Twitter by Children's Health Defense, very closely tied to Bobby originally. They posted on March 12th this clip of Kennedy with his sort of more open-ended previous stance on MMR.
It used to be when you and I were kids, everybody got measles. And measles gave you lifetime protection against measles infection. The vaccine doesn't do that. The vaccine is effective for some people for life, but many people it wanes. And one of the problems is it does not appear to provide maternal immunity. It used to be a very young kid. You don't want a 1-year-old kid getting measles. That's very dangerous. They were protected by breast milk and by maternal immunity. And women who get vaccinated do not provide that level of maternal immunity that the natural measles infection did. So you're now seeing measles hit very, very young kids and hitting older people within whom the vaccine has waned. And that is something that we need to worry about and that we're looking at HHS.
I want to be really clear to all of YouTube that everything he's saying is obviously misinformation, because Bobby is the biggest purveyor of misinformation on the internet, and anyone that would question the efficacy and the safe and effectiveness of the V things clearly is a misinformation spreader. So just to clarify, our stance on this show is that those V things are extremely safe and effective, and you should listen to everything that the big pharma media tells you about them, because you should trust the experts. And definitely do not trust this Suzanne lady that went on Joe Rogan recently and told you all kinds of conspiratorial lies about the history of the V things and how they're made and what they really do and how those diseases work and all sorts of horrible misinformation. Definitely do not go watch the Joe Rogan episode with Dr. Suzanne. I'm forgetting her last name right now. We'll come back to her. Because it is just obviously a pack of lies funded by Qatar. So that sort of is where the story starts, right? And the story has developed because this measles outbreak in Texas is gaining a lot of steam and traction to the point where 2 people, I believe, have died. Don't quote me on that. It's just that I'm reporting on the second death of a child in Texas since the measles outbreak began in late January in Gaines County, as per Reuters news agency, one of the foremost bastions of truth and journalistic integrity in America today. And when you look up, the Gaines County second child died not from measles, because you're a conspiracy theorist, you are bombarded with an entire laundry list of hit pieces and swarming articles. Second unvaccinated child dies of measles amid rising outbreak. A Texas child who was not vaccinated has died of measles, etc., etc. Second unvaccinated child dies of measles. Second child dies from measles related causes. Ooh. Measles related causes? PBS, are you stepping out of line there? Are you doing a wrong think, PBS? That would be very bad. We wouldn't want PBS to lose its funding or to get in trouble, because clearly the status quo, clearly the established narrative, the scientific consensus among the experts is that measles is a big deal and you should be scared. RFK Jr. says MMR vaccine is, quote, the most effective way to prevent the spread of measles as second child dies from the disease. Wait, what? I thought Bobby had a whole different stance on measles. Okay, so quote, I came to Gaines County, Texas today to comfort the Hildebrand family after the loss of their 8-year-old daughter, Daisy. I got to know the family of 6-year-old Kaylee Fair after she passed away in February. I also developed bonds with and deep affection for other members of the community during that difficult time. My intention was to come down here quietly to console the families and to be with the community in their moment of grief. I am also here to support Texas health officials and to learn how our HHS agencies can better partner with them to control the measles outbreak, which as of today, there are 642 confirmed cases of measles across 22 states, 499 of those in Texas. And here's the kicker. In early March, I deployed a CDC team to bolster local and state capacity for response across multiple Texas regions, supply pharmacies and Texas-run clinics with needed MMR vaccines and other medicines and medical supplies, work with local schools and healthcare facilities to support contact investigations, and reach out to communities, including faith leaders, to answer any questions or respond to locations seeking healthcare. Since that time, the growth rates for new cases and hospitalizations have flattened. The most effective way to prevent the spread of measles is the MMR vaccine. I've spoken to Governor Abbott, and I've offered HHS's continued support. At his request, we have redeployed CDC teams to Texas. We will continue to follow Texas's lead and to offer similar resources to other affected jurisdictions. So Bobby, thankfully, is finally on board with science and is finally towing the official narrative, the truth, and is waking up from his fever dream of conspiracy theories now that the second child has died of measles officially. But the only problem is that it's not actually quite so simple. So let's share some horrible misinformation that's being spread online that you could look into for yourself to determine the veracity of this misinformation. Liz Wheeler, who I disagree with on many topics, reported, what on earth is going on with Bobby Kennedy? Quote, needed MMR vaccines? Quote, the most effective way to prevent the spread of measles is the MMR vaccine? Why didn't he mention that her parents shared her medical records with his organization, Children's Health Defense, and doctors who reviewed the records said the wrong antibiotics were administered for her pneumonia for 2.5 days, and then there was a delay of 9 hours before the correct one was given after the error was discovered and the proper one was ordered, and by that time she was already on a ventilator. Obviously, that's probably misinformation. I'm just reporting on what she said and what she's reporting, and I don't corroborate that. I'm just saying that's what she said. Maha Nation fought for Bobby Kennedy because he was unafraid to name the dangers of the MMR vaccine. He was courageous enough to tell the truth about measles itself. Where the heck is that Bobby Kennedy now? Did Big Pharma get him? Is he really this naive about MSM that he's playing into their narrative? Is he in over his head? It's time for Maha Nation to raise our voices to encourage Bobby to be based. We voted for based. We didn't vote for needed MMR vaccines. This sentiment is confirmed by many in the health, freedom, and conspiracy theory movements. like Mary Talley Bowden, who recently appeared on Tucker Carlson, which is an interview that you should watch if you want to intake all sorts of dangerous misinformation that might rot your brain. Is this what we voted for? No, Mary, it is not. Dr. Suzanne Humphreys, who I mentioned about the Joe Rogan episode, she chimed in, I am speechless. Do we keep defending and making excuses? And if so, for how long? Brett Weinstein weighed in, another hostage video from RFK's official government account. This is not what we voted for. We sent Bobby to Washington to make America healthy again. At POTUS, you need the coalition that elected you to remain intact. Commitment to Maha is not negotiable. Free Bobby Kennedy. Clint Russell pointed out a really important detail that we're going to get to in just a minute. Hey, Bobby, just blink twice if you're being blackmailed. This is damning. And then he shared excerpts from the intro to a book that Bobby Kennedy wrote this intro, and it's a book all about measles and the MMR vaccine, published by Children's Health Defense, that I will show you where to find it, and we will dig into momentarily. So, on to the text message that I got yesterday. For obvious reasons, I'm protecting the name of the source of this text message. I was texted, you might want to report on this. Bobby was in Seminole, Texas today. I just got off a call with the doctors who were with him. They are perplexed because what Bobby said in person is the opposite of what he said in this post. He's been against the MMR for decades. Now he recommends it? Compromised? And he's referencing this tweet from Bobby that we just mentioned. I asked, can I share a screenshot of this text without your name associated in any way? I'll happily keep it private if you prefer, because I don't just share things that people don't want public. And then this person said, sure, let me rewrite it for a second just because I wanted to add some more details to make it a little more clear. The full truth is Bobby has been privately fully against MMR, but publicly his position has been it's a personal choice. And now apparently publicly his position is MMR, the vaccine, is the most effective treatment and protection against measles, mumps, and rubella. Thank goodness he's finally on board with science. And so a slightly more informative text came in after that. You might want to report on this. RFK Jr. was in Gaines County, Texas today to attend the funeral of the second child who died not of measles, but of other medical complications, confirming what Liz Wheeler was alluding to. I just got off a call, or rather corroborating, not confirming. I just got off a call with the doctors who were with him. They are perplexed because what RFK said in person is the opposite of what he said in this post. He knows that child did not die due to measles. He also knows the measles are far less harmful than the MMR. Yet the moment he departed Gaines County, he posted that tweet. I might clarify, too, if it wasn't apparent from these text messages, from the contents of these text messages, the person that sent me these text messages is in a position to know. That person that sent me those text messages has been there in that community, knows that community well, and is on a speaking first name basis with them all, and is deeply involved in that story right now. And there's very few people that I would trust more to know what's going on in there about the measles outbreak, about the families, and about RFK Jr. as well. And so when I receive these text messages, that is concerning. And so there's something afoot. And that something sounds an awful lot like what I was talking about in my second video, where I elaborated on how it appears that people all around Maha, all around Kennedy, inside of his now administration and formerly campaign, are all saying that they have feared for a long time that there seems to be elements of infiltration and control, whether that's through direct blackmail or through soft blackmail and coercion, through information flow control. People like Stephanie Spear, as one example, that has a tight lock on any flow of communication between the outside world and Bobby. She is the number one gatekeeper around him. Some people are speculating that maybe she is writing his tweets. And regardless, I have questions of how can you allow that to be happening, RFK, when the tweets that are going out are in direct conflict with your stance that we voted for, the reason why we put you in position, the reason why we wanted you to Maha. Okay? Children's Health Defense is an organization that has long been tied to Bobby. They published his book. He wrote the foreword for this book we're about to look at. And if you wanted a steady stream of dangerous misinformation about these types of medications and about health and freedom, you should probably go visit their Twitter and read some really horrible misinformation and conspiracy theories that they cite sources for, and make up your own mind about such things. Like, for example, former CDC director pushes extra MMR shots for babies as Arizona health officials report suspected measles case was rare vaccine reaction, posted on April 3rd, 4 days ago. Some infectious disease experts, including the former CDC director, Dr. Rochelle Walensky, are pushing health officials to recommend an extra dose of the MMR vaccine for babies ages 6 to 11 months who live in or travel to areas with these measles outbreaks. The news comes as a suspected measles case in a 1-year-old child in Pima County, Arizona, this week turned out to be a reaction to the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine, not measles. According to a collection of documents recently released by PIC physicians, the risk of permanent disability or death from the MMR vaccine may be greater than the risk posed by measles. Obviously, that is misinformation and, bad science, and I'm just reporting on what these guys said online because the news is important to know about. That's because vaccine safety studies conducted so far haven't been large enough. Research has shown that in some instances, the MMR vaccine causes all these horrible things. CHD's Heather Ray called the risk of serious adverse events following MMR vaccination concerning and noted that only a small percentage are reported in the VAERS. Along with that. And, there's all sorts of other resources on their X feed that you might want to just peruse in order to harden your mind and heart against this dangerous propaganda and misinformation that must be funded by Qatar or Russia or someone horrible like that. And, you can do your own research so that you can know the truth. But the real smoking gun here at this moment, or at least the damning kind of conundrum in this story, is that this book was published by Children's Health Defense, and it's called The Measles Book, 35 Secrets the Government and Media Aren't Telling You About Measles and the Measles Vaccine. And now, for a quick word from our sponsor, me. If you want to help support my work and my mission, the best way to do it is to go to canceliancarroll.com and pick up some merch, like Food Not Pharma. Very timely, eh? Maybe Bobby should pick up a Food Not Pharma shirt and rep it. Maybe it would help remind him of his mandate. But on this website, there's a brand new shop that I'm not in charge of, thank goodness. So I can't mess it up. The boys in charge of this shop are awesome, and I'll be making a video about them. Pick up your favorite threads. That supports my mission. And if you want to pick up Optimal Human, it's the greens powder that I'm always sipping on now because I freaking love it. It actually makes me feel better. I'm not kidding. It actually makes me feel clearer. I would not be shilling this product if I did not drink it and I did not love it. It's formulated by people that I personally know. It's tested by laboratories, and it's run and manufactured and distributed by a family, well, technically a founder-owned business, the two boys over at Bigley. The Jim is trying to call my phone number. Get out of here, Jim. I call you, Jim. You don't call me. I work out when I want to work out. Trying to shill bullshit at me. Planet Fitness. Get out of here. So, if you're the type of person that wants to optimize your health, this is a great place to do it. AG1 has some issues that you can look up for yourself. There's controversy, and there's all kinds of YouTube videos about it. We're not going to go shitting on AG1 and all that stuff right now. But Optimal Human is dope, and I stand by it. I drink it every day, and my secret lately, just not a sponsored pick at all, I've been mixing it with Uptime, which is an energy drink that does not have cyanocobalamin, which is made from shit, literally, as far as I'm aware. I'm not a doctor. But it's a dope energy drink, and I was mixing it in this morning, and I was thinking, I wonder who owns Uptime, because I don't want to talk about it if it's like a PepsiCo mega corporation. So I looked them up. Who owns Uptime? And it turns out that the guy that owns Uptime is this guy named Benjamin Kim. And he is not the founder. He purchased it. He was a longtime user of the original Uptime. And this is not a paid promotion at all. I have no affiliation with Uptime or with Benjamin. I just want to encourage all of you to, when you think about that product that you're using, I think, do you know who owns it and like where it comes from and what it's all about and what their story is, and do a little bit of research about the products that you're putting into your body, and just double check. And Uptime seems to check out. He certainly, Benjamin Kim certainly seems to be in sort of the venture capital world, and he certainly is an entrepreneur, not like a mom founding a product. But it seems legit to me, and the ingredients are awesome, and it's one of the healthiest energy drinks out there, and it does give Optimal Human that little spike of sweetness that is delicious, although it is already one of the tastiest green supplements I have ever tasted in my life. So thanks for supporting my work. Like, share, subscribe, drop a comment. That is a huge help that you give internet points to me for free at no cost, but a little bit of time for you to click those buttons. And if you want to support me in a bigger way, visit my website, canceliancarroll.com, shop for some threads, sign up for the mailing list, and you'll get entered to win 2 free tickets to my event in Austin this fall. It's going to be a banger. You can come meet me, meet all of your favorite people from the media world, from the decentralized media. It's going to be a freaking party. So go get yourself hooked up, do something healthy for yourself, and buy a Food Not Pharma shirt to stick it to the man. The Measles Book, 35 secrets the government and media aren't telling you about measles and the measles vaccine. And you can get it for free. If you go to childrenshealthdefense.org, you can find this ebook, and they will give it to you for free if you just give them your email address and sign up for their mailing list. They then give you the option to give a one-time donation, which I recommend that you do to support their work. I did. And they will email you a free copy of this book in PDF format that you can download. And in the contents, they have a preface and then a foreword by Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and then these 7 parts. There is no need to panic about measles. The measles vaccines are worth billions of dollars to vaccine makers and the government. The measles vaccine can be dangerous to some children. The shocking ingredients in the measles vaccine. The autism vaccine secrets you have never been told. Vaccine companies are not held accountable when a child is hurt or killed by a vaccine. The government is forcing a one-size-fits-all healthcare plan that does not fit all. And then a conclusion. You should not be forced to vaccinate. When you open up that book and you read that foreword written by Robert F. Kennedy Jr., he says things like this, quote, "The Measles Book explodes this propaganda. In concise, factual detail, CHD rips the cloak off pharma industry slogans to reveal a disease that is rarely life-threatening and a vaccine that is largely unnecessary, but which carries real risks for the children mandated to take them. Parents are simply not informed of the real deal with measles vaccines. The information in the Measles Book may come as a shock to many who previously trusted the public health experts. Why have the benefits of the measles vaccine been exaggerated and the risks understated? Because these vaccines are a cash cow for an industry that long ago left behind the legacy of true public health pioneers like Dr. Jonas Salk. Big Pharma has devolved into nothing more than a government-enabled cartel. CHD informs the reader that measles vaccines carry risks, but only for the vaccinee and his or her family. Big Pharma is free of virtually all legal liability for damages from the vaccine's harms." It goes on to say, quote, "Measles outbreaks have been fabricated to create fear that in turn forces government officials to do something, like write really weird tweets about it that don't match up with their former views about it. Quote, they then inflict unnecessary and risky vaccines on millions of children for the sole purpose of fattening industry profits. When a child is injured, and many are, but most injuries are not reported. The government and pharma walk away, denying responsibility and liability for damages. If the child is one of the rare few to obtain compensation from the government for his or her injuries, the reader will be shocked to learn that taxpayers, not pharma, foot the bill." So, quote, "The most effective way to prevent the spread of measles is the MMR vaccine." Quote, "Supply pharmacies and Texas-run clinics with needed MMR vaccines and other medicines and medical supplies." Quote, "Measles outbreaks have been fabricated to create fear that in turn forces government officials to do something." I don't know. That sounds an awful lot like we've been talking about. Because, like I mentioned in the previous video, vaccines are a massive cash cow for big pharma. But they're also a somewhat integral part of the sort of defense intelligence agency agenda around bioweapons. And they seem to play an integral part in a certain type of sort of globalist control agenda that was hoisted upon the people during the COVID era. And so there's a lot of incentive, both in intelligence agencies as well as in corporate circles, to stop Bobby Kennedy from going after this specific topic. And he used to be very vocal. And now that he's in a position to do something about it, all of a sudden, he seems to be changing his tune on this one issue and focusing entirely on red food dye and the like. And what he's doing in food is awesome. And what he's saying he's going to do in food and agriculture and all that is awesome. And we're all totally here for it. But we voted for Bobby Kennedy because we deserve a reckoning. Because millions of people were injured and killed for reasons by certain things during COVID that, let's just say, we don't have a reckoning about yet. And I'm not claiming anything. I'm not a doctor, and I'm not saying that those things were responsible. I'm just saying that a lot of Americans seem to think that those things were responsible, and they said and they say that that's why they voted for Bobby. And so now that Bobby is changing his tune, it's looking pretty fishy. It's looking very fishy. So I just wanted to briefly share this statistic that is often cited, and Dr. Suzanne Humphries recently cited, about the deaths per 100,000 people caused by various diseases like measles, scarlet fever, typhoid, whooping cough, and diphtheria, relative to when vaccines were introduced and when penicillin and all these other things were introduced. So the measles vaccine was introduced in 1963, all the way over here. And just to clarify, measles is this green line over here. These are all these diseases that killed so many hundreds of thousands of people over the years. And you're pretty much gone before the vaccines were introduced. And if you wanted to know more about that history from a horrible conspiracy theorist, you should probably go look up the Dr. Suzanne Humphries interview on Joe Rogan, and listen for yourself to her wild, loony ideas. But needless to say, this is getting weird. And at what point do we speak up? At what point do we call this out? Because, yeah, we all want Bobby to succeed. And we all want to make America healthy again. But we are in this window since COVID where, just like after 2008, we are expecting some sort of fallout. We are expecting accountability. We are expecting the CIA officials that were involved in these biolabs that we know allegedly, conspiratorially, might have manufactured the virus using gain-of-function research. And I'm just spitballing that, based upon leaks like these documents that, are just, they are what they are and they say what they say. Like, for example, SARS-CoV-2 is, quote, an American-created recombinant bat vaccine or its precursor virus. It was created by an EcoHealth Alliance program at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, as suggested by the reporting surrounding the lab leak hypothesis. This is just coming from this unclassified document from the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency, DARPA, from the Commandant of the Marine Corps, fellow DARPA, to the Inspector General. So I'm just quoting documents when I say such things. You can go and read that reporting at projectveritas.com. I mean, we're just wondering about all the weird excess deaths from tumors and turbo cancers that have been going on in the last couple years. We're just a little concerned about the cardiovascular disease statistics and all the people collapsing suddenly. And we expect answers, and we expect accountability from the people in the government, from the people in the secret agencies behind the scenes, from the people in the corporations that profited to the tunes of billions of dollars off of this stuff. We know that the CIA was involved in helping to manufacture the mRNA technology. You know, we have the publicly available VAERS data, which is the Vaccine Adverse Effects Reporting System, that shows that COVID-19 now has more reported deaths, the vaccine, to be clear, just according to the VAERS system. Now, I'm not saying anything. I'm just reporting on the facts. I mean, the conspiracy theories. That the VAERS data seems to show that the COVID-19 vaccine has more reported deaths than all other vaccines in history combined. And that data shows up in multiple different vectors that you can look up for yourself. Just don't type it into Google, because somehow the Google results all seem to just show you mainstream news articles about how that is obviously misinformation. And then the big question is why on the CDC's official vaccine, childhood vaccines and immunization schedule, why is it that they are recommending 3 doses of the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID vaccine at 6 months of age? Huh, Bobby? This is for the virus that we knew from the start was not dangerous to children. It's like a cold to children. They get right over it. And from a vaccine that we do not have adequate safety testing of. And we have evidence to suggest that maybe they even fudged the data and lied to us about the testing that they did do. So why are we giving babies 3 doses of this vaccine for a disease that is not dangerous to them, that has only gotten less dangerous to everyone over time, because that's how this stuff works, allegedly, with a vaccine that is untested and is now mandated in some regards, in some places, and at the very least should not be recommended? My personal opinion, tinfoil hat, is it should be taken off the goddamn market, and we should be having investigations, and people should be on the stand getting prosecuted in a court of law. Obviously only for if there was a crime, which I'm sure there was no crimes, because these guys are all above board, and Big Pharma would never, ever commit a crime for profit. Big Pharma would never hurt people with things like opioids, right? Or Vioxx, right? Like, never. Or AZT. Like, let's be real. Like, Big Pharma would never hurt someone with a drug like AZT or thalidomide. So, I just wanted to fill you all in on the state of the conspiracy theories on the internet today. Because at the end of the day, this is not what we voted for. And we have swirling rumors that Bobby is controlled in some way, or that people inside and around him are seeing what they think makes them feel like there's some sort of control system. And we know for a fact that he is an ex-heroin addict and that he has struggled with sexual addictions in the past. Look up the diaries, the ex-wife story. And we've got all kinds of rumors, including the Olivia Nuzzi sexting scandal, which we found out recently through our good friend Jessica Reed Krause, was more than just a sexting scandal, allegedly. And so we naturally have some questions for you, Bobby Kennedy, because we are here to Maha, and we're gonna Maha. And we are under the impression that you're here to Maha too. And this is your legacy. And this is the break or break moment for you and your family name. And you have been given an immense responsibility by the American people. not just to make America healthy again and to stand up against the cartel pharmaceutical industry and to stand up against all of these corporate industries that are way out of control, as you have said your entire life, but also to stand up to every other institution and agency that would control us, that would control our words, that would control our minds, that would control our bodies and our health freedom. And we gave you the responsibility to do something about it. And you put your entire family's name and reputation on the line to do that. And if you let whatever the heck this is that they've got over you, whatever the reasoning that you're letting people like Stephanie Spear control you, if you let that compromise this moment and this opportunity for America, and you let these compromises in your mind, like, I guess I can only do what I can do, like, I'll try my best, like, maybe we'll compromise and we'll get a little bit of this done in exchange for not getting that done, that's fucking bullshit. And we all see through it. And we will hold your legacy to account for what you actually do, because what you promised was accountability. What you promised was to actually look at the real situations going on with vaccines, the real situations going on with big pharma and big food and with COVID. And you wrote the goddamn book on it. The Real Anthony Fauci. And right now, Bobby, you are writing the book, The Real Bobby Kennedy. And we're all watching. And we're all reading it. And we want to love you. And we want to support you. And we want to maha with you. But we're actually the ones living this story. You're a Kennedy. You live in an ivory tower. Your way is paid. And I guarantee you that if you're not paid off today, you would be able to get paid off any day of your life because you're a Kennedy. And you'll live happily ever after on Cape Cod just pretending it's all fine. But we are the American people. We're the ones being poisoned. We're the ones being impoverished. We're the ones whose kids are being made sick by chronic diseases that are out of our control. We're the ones trapped in this. And we're watching you. Because we elected you to do something about it. Please do not flush your family name, your reputation, and your part of the Maha movement down the drain for whatever it is that's going on behind the scenes. And lastly, to be clear, we don't need you, though we desperately want to have you. We are going to make America healthy again as a nation, as a people. It's up to all of us to make America healthy again, because ultimately, America's health is our health, and our health is our own. And although a lot of the things are out of control and out of our control, and that's why we want you to help, that's why we need you in there actually tackling these issues, we're the ones that can make healthier food choices. We're the ones that can grow a garden. We're the ones that can learn to cook our own food, that can start sourcing better products for our families and for our kitchens. We're the ones that can start thinking more critically about our vaccine choices, about our health choices, about our doctors. We're the ones that ultimately do have the power to make the personal choices, to make ourselves healthy again, and thereby to make America healthy again. So this is a reminder to all of us that it's up to all of us. And we should support Bobby in his mission. And we should call Bobby out when he strays from that mission. And most importantly, we should take on the mission ourselves and do something healthy for yourself. Whether that's drinking more water, or getting more exercise, or running your first marathon, or just eating a little bit healthier, or a lot healthier. It's up to all of us. Because we've always known that the unfortunate fact is that we are America. And it's up to us to make America healthy again. And with that, that's our show. Thanks for watching. Thanks for liking, sharing, and subscribing. I really appreciate you supporting the YouTube channel. Much more of this to come. I'm hoping that this will stay up on YouTube, even though it's about the forbidden topics. I hope I did a good job of walking the line and making it really clear what is misinformation and tinfoil that you should not pay any attention to, and just reporting on the facts of what's happening in the public space. But who knows? Maybe this video will finally be the one that cancels Ian Carroll.
Conspiracy theories are dangerous.
Information is the oxygen of a democracy.
With Republicans, with progressives, with libertarians, because this is not about right and left, this is about right and wrong.
It's so sacred we can't talk about it.
Our security is at stake.